Welcome to a topic analysis on technology and teaching, brought to you by Joshua Tabor, Bart Taylor, and Joe Yu. In June 2013, President Obama announced the launch of the Connect Ed initiative, which through technology and digital content is designed to enrich K-12 education for every student in America. Amongst other things, this initiative aims to connect 99% of America's students to broadband and high-speed wireless internet in their schools and libraries. As we know, technology is now ubiquitous. There are now more than 500 million devices in U.S. homes connected to the internet. Furthermore, the average number of devices per U.S. internet households has grown from 5.3 devices just a few months ago to 5.7 today. The Connect Ed initiative prepares America's students with the skills they need to enter a workforce driven by technology. However, fewer than 40% of America's schools have the broadband they need to teach using today's technology. Under Connect Ed, 99% of America's students will have access to the next generation broadband by 2018. The idea is that the connectivity will help transform the classroom experience for all students, regardless of income. The President also directed the federal government to make better use of funding to get internet connectivity and educational technology into the classrooms. He also called for businesses, states, districts, and schools, and communities to support his vision. The rapid and constant change of technology is creating both opportunities and challenges for schools. The opportunities include greater access to multimedia content, the increasing use of online courses, the availability of mobile computing devices, the expanding role of social networking tools for learning and professional development, and the growth of interest in the power of digital games for more personalized learning. At the same time, the pace of change creates significant challenges for schools. Schools are forever playing technological catch-up as digital innovations emerge that require upgrading a school's technological infrastructure as well as building new professional development programs. Some schools have been adept in keeping up with those changes, while many others are falling far behind. This creates a digital divide based largely on the quality of educational technology rather than just simple access to the internet. Some teachers rave about educational technology and suggest that it's impossible to run a modern-day classroom without it. Others have suggested that it's a fad and a trendy add-on that does little to change the fundamental basics of education. Some even think that it's a distraction and it's prone to waste time and money. According to a poll of U.S. teachers in May 2013, 86% of teachers think that it's important or absolutely essential to use technology in the classroom. 96% of teachers think that technology increases student engagement in learning. 89% of teachers think that technology improves student outcomes, and 92% of teachers would like to use even more technology than they already do. But only 14% of teachers use digital curriculum weekly. Only 19% of teachers use subject-specific content tools weekly, and only 11% of teachers are implementing one-on-one or BYOD programs. According to a poll conducted in June 2013, 100% of surveyed colleges had a Facebook account, 80% had a Twitter account, 70% had a YouTube or Vimeo channel, and one Stanford University Massive Open Online Course, an MOOC, had 160,000 participants from over 190 countries. Social media in schools, 96% of students with internet access report using social media. 59% of students who use social networking talk about educational topics online. 59% of schools say that their students are using social networking for educational purposes. 35% of schools have students and or instructors running blogs. And 46% of schools have students participate on online pen pal or similar international programs. The current top 10 major technology trends in education include personal access from mobile devices, internet connectivity, meaning 64% of students surveyed identified a 3G or 4G enabled device as a primary means of connecting to the internet at home, use of video or classwork and homework, mobile devices for schoolwork, using different tools for different tasks, rather than using one or even few platforms for various tasks. Students are increasingly savvy about taking advantage and benefits of online tools that are available to them. Students are also paying attention to their digital footprint. 64% of high school students responded admitted being careful about the things they post online. 39% said they advised friends about the context they post, and 32% saying they stopped interacting with friends who post inappropriate content. Finally, 44% of high school students said they believe a positive digital profile is an important part of their future. An increased interest on online learning is another trend. Gaming is growing and the gender gap is closing. 60% of students use laptops as gaming devices. Cell phones and game consoles tied with 54% use, while tablets clocked in at 44%. Another trend is simply social media in schools. And then, what devices belong in the ultimate school? 56% of students said laptops were the most important, and 51% chose digital readers, and 48% selected tablets. Now let's hear what our friend Sir Ken Robinson has to say about technology and education.
I find it very interesting now to look at how the digital tools that are available are changing the planet and the lives that our students are leading. The fact is, most people who are teaching now in schools were born before these tools were available, and our students take them completely for granted. Somebody once said that technology is not technology if it happened before you were born. I mean, I was born in 1950, which does seem like a very long time ago now, but I wasn't very excited about electricity. You know, it wasn't like some major breakthrough for me, but it was for my grandparents. And our kids aren't really that excited about a lot of the technologies now that excite adults. They simply take them for granted. So our students have a facility with digital technology, and it's right and proper, therefore, that we should build them into the heart of education. But it's also important we do it because the tools themselves are creating cultural changes and possibilities which are really quite new. Our students are connected not just with the people in the room around them, but with literally anybody on the planet they care to be connected to. And that's an entirely new cultural proposition, I think, and it changes the game. And my argument is that one of the reasons we have to transform education, and we really do, is because the technologies have changed the whole context of education. But they're also among the ways in which the transformation itself will take place. So this shift to me is much more than a shift in the way we do art or the way we do design, although that's certainly the case. These tools are extraordinary now. They affect the way we think in all disciplines. They affect the way we think of disciplines. They affect the way disciplines interact. So these new tools seem to me to be providing opportunities and a palette of possibilities which should be available to every single student, not just to a few.
The implications for technology and teaching are pretty much limitless. As we evolve technologically, teachers have to evolve through their training, through doing their own research into technology. Individual teachers have varying levels of tech and what they want to use, so they have to kind of research how they can apply what they want. Schools and school districts have to meet this challenge by offering quality professional development. And one of my pet peeves with this is they have to provide ongoing support for their teachers. There's a ton of teachers that get, excited about this new technology or this new program, and they start to use it, but then because they're lacking support, they stop using it and go back to something they're more familiar with. So districts need to address that. Major technology companies are starting to get into the action on teaching with the evolution of TED Talks and seeing those take off. You can now get in on iTunes. There's iTunes U with a number of lessons. A number of colleges are putting lessons on that you can download into a podcast. Teachers can upload those if they want their students to download them. Microsoft in Education's got a YouTube channel that kind of chronicles different things. They've also got a variety of lessons you can access. And then you've got your Google Teacher Academy that you can take courses and get a certification to be like a master Google teacher. So you can see that the companies are really wanting their products being used in education. One thing I wanted to include that's going beyond the blended classroom and the online classroom is this idea of gamification. I've given you the definition, and on the next slide I've included a video that might kind of give you an idea. But gamification is combining education with the billion-dollar video game industry. It's trying to draw in students that like that competitive aspect of video games. They like the pre-built worlds that exist. They like the rewards if you do something successfully, whether it's through badges or points or seeing your name on a leaderboard or something to that effect. So it's still kind of a niche market, but it is growing. So if you haven't heard of it, it's something you might take a look at.
I want you, at the beginning of this, to picture a game in your head, your favorite game. It's the one that you would play if you could do something else right now besides just listen to me talk. So have that in your head as I begin this. For me, gaming started a long time ago. I have a gaming hero. It's not the guy who invented Nintendo, and it's not some obscure indie developer you've never heard of. My gaming hero was Robert Bruno. He was a middle-aged Italian guy. Supposedly, he taught high school math. But for me, it was just playtime. He saw what made students tick and then played right into that. For me, he noticed that I would get bored in class because I would finish my work quickly. So his solution to this was to give me an additional book of trigonometry proofs with no hints in the back. Unlocking bonus content, right? Totally one of those things that you would love to have in the classroom. But he also could see where students struggled and would help them with that. He posted leaderboards to have those kids who were motivated by those sorts of competitive natures to sort of jockey for a first position. And he made subjects like finite math an opportunity for real mastery. So part of the problem in talking about gamifying education is how we've defined it in the past. I think historically we've been taught to think of gamifying education as games that are on a computer, Oregon Trail, Reader Rabbit, or something that's on a LeapPad. But instead, today what I want to talk about is how do games, how we design games, how we think about games, play into what can help benefit education. One of the things that games offer us is adaptation. If I play Halo, I can choose the different modes that I can play on. I can choose easy, medium, heroic, or even legendary status. And the game's engine then makes that game more or less difficult depending on what I'm asking it to do. How does this translate to education? If I'm a kid who just loves to read, I eat Russian literature for breakfast, where's my legendary status? Where's my super difficult mode? Technology affords us some of these choices. There's a company called Newton, spelled with a K, and they offer customized playlists for students. It's based off of students' history and upon data points, and it's a sort of a monumental task. Following Clayton Christensen's theory of disruptive innovation, they've specifically targeted markets that at first have been ignored. Markets like test preparation and markets like juvenile detention education. Furthermore, in a game, you can be totally personalized. In real life, face-to-face, I'm a mild-mannered father of two, but in a game, I can be whoever I want. I can take on an entirely new persona with an entirely unique avatar that's very different from my real life. In a game called Minecraft, you create the whole world around you. The villages, all the objects inside are all things that you make. You make the game. In education, we can encourage a sort of student making their own world by using simple tools like digital portfolios. A digital portfolio is a collection of all the things that a student has made and done over the years. And these simple websites can be made with editors that are very user-friendly nowadays, things that weren't even possible 5 or 6 years ago, and a lot of these tools are free. Things like Google Sites and Evernote can help create a digital portfolio for a student that fully shows off their personality and what they've done. Furthermore, as a student progresses through the years, they can be evaluated holistically, and they can be seen as for all the things they've done and not just for a single test over a short period of time where they struggled. Games also offer us opportunities for cooperation and competition. I would say a good example of a game that's very competitive is Words with Friends. It quickly becomes Words with Enemies. People, when they start playing it, start to lose all their manners, and at dinner time will just start checking their phone every 2 seconds. Competition is a powerful motivator for us to succeed and for us to do well. There are also cooperative games. Talk about games like World of Warcraft, where you build guilds and go on raids together. Games like The Sims that are all about social interaction, and there's a newer game called Space Team, which is like a live, in-person networking game where you try to safely navigate a spaceship, but you're all on a team together and you have to be in the same place and you're shouting at each other. It's very exciting. Games like these create passion, right? I mean, when you talk about Warcraft, you can't help but think of people who become very obsessed with Warcraft. It's spawned little microeconomies. It's spawned a theme park in China and even Warcraft-based weddings and marriages. Cooperation and competition don't appeal to everyone all the time. Some people very much trend towards one or the other, but most of us are sort of in the middle. In education, there was a university professor who, instead of giving normal grades, instead distributed experience points for completing tasks in his courses. And so students would then compete to get the most experience points and be like a level 20 student. But on the cooperative side, there are companies, educational startups that are trying to tackle the social and cooperative end of this. There's a company called Edmodo, which is sort of like a Facebook clone for students and for teachers, which is a safe social network. You don't have to worry about your mom or other friends being on there. It's just for learning in the classroom, but you can do all the same sorts of collaboration and networking things you could do with Facebook. Now these game design challenges present new challenges for students and teachers. Teachers must step up to the challenge of really knowing their students and knowing what works best for them and balancing the challenges so that things that work for some students can also work for others and marrying those two things together. But students themselves also need to take responsibility for their own learning and understand what kind of learner am I? What makes me tick? What makes me motivated? All this leads towards talking about competence, which Fred so eloquently talked about today. With Mario, I can bring him along a level and fall down a hole. I can't tell you how many times I've done that. And I have to restart over again until I reach that flagpole. I can just keep going again and again and again. But for students, oftentimes we rush them along. We say, you're part of this 30-person class, you've got to go. And it's not a model that's good for students, and it's not a model that builds mastery and comprehension. There are schools now that are taking this competency-based model. I'm glad to see that New Hampshire's taking the lead as a state. In Michigan, there's a new school that opened up called the Nexus Lansing that's being co-sponsored by Central Michigan University, and it's all about competency-based learning. Students even have internships for the second half of the day. They have a long school day. I think it's from like 9 to 5. And for the second half of the day, they actually go out and they work in the real world to gain those real world skills that will be important in the job market. This inevitably leads to assessment. Assessment is one of the trickier parts of education. I work in this industry. It's difficult. There are so many rules around assessment. Most people don't like taking these state mandated tests. If you are one of those people, you are in a very small minority. I was one of those kids who loved standardized tests. I'm a weirdo, I know. but there are different ways that we can assess these things. In a video game, when you're assessed and you did a good job, what do you get? You get a badge, right? You get a little image, a little something that says, I did this, I'm competent at this. And there are technologies now that open these badges to teachers and schools and other institutions to issue. Mozilla, who make Firefox, have done this open badge system that allows you to earn and then display badges. And this is an important thing, especially for informal learning institutions like museums and discovery centers, is that those are places where we can see this sort of innovation making inways first, right? Because at those places, things like curiosity, things like leadership and mentorship, those sort of soft skills that are hard to measure on a standards-based test, are things that we can champion and that we can really demonstrate in those informal situations, and so they can issue those. The other way is, I think we need to be clearer as an educational background in terms of showing where these pathways lead. Oftentimes you hear kids being not motivated saying, well, what am I going to use this for? If we never show where these skills lead and what they build upon and what they build to, then ultimately your guess is as good as mine. Khan Academy does a really good job of mapping out how you can start out with something as basic as addition or subtraction or multiplication, and then moving on and on and on towards calculus. We can extend this map if we want, with the help of corporate sponsors, to sort of show how one could go from learning very basic math skills to eventually being a roboticist, or being an engineer, or being a writer. These are all jobs that are out there in the market that you need sort of those skills, and we can build upon those skills and map those out. So ultimately, what does this mean on Monday, right? Today's Saturday, school starts again on Monday. Am I saying that we all need to start making games all the time, that we need to all get tablets or laptops to make this happen? No, I'm not saying that. I'm saying that we can do a lot better about thinking about education in terms of game design. That if teachers think that learning is a game, then they can make it so, and that students will respond to that. When will we know when we're done? When will we know that learning is a lot more like playing? We'll know when it stops feeling like work. Thank you.
So these are the technology standards that we find in the statutory authority under the Texas Essential Knowledge and Skills for Technology Applications. The technology applications curriculum has 6 standards based on the National Educational Technology Standards for students and performance indicators developed by the International Society for Technology and Education, creativity and innovation, communication and collaboration, research and information fluency, critical thinking, problem solving and decision making, digital citizenship, and technology operations and concepts. Through the study of the 6 strands in technology application, students use creativity and innovation processes to construct knowledge and develop products. And the students are expected to apply prior knowledge to develop new ideas, products, and processes, create original products using a variety of resources, explore virtual environments, simulations, models, and programming languages to enhance learning, create and execute steps to accomplish a task, and evaluate and modify steps to accomplish a task. The student collaborates and communicates both locally and globally using digital tools and resources to reinforce and promote learning. In this area, based on the statutory authority, the student is expected to use communication tools that allow for anytime, anywhere access to interact, collaborate, or publish with peers locally and globally. Also, students are required to participate in digital environments to develop cultural understanding by interacting with learners of multiple cultures. Students are also expected to format digital information, including font attributes, color, white space, graphics, and animation for a defined audience and communication medium, and select, store, and deliver products using a variety of media formats, devices, and virtual environments. In research and information fluency, the student acquires and evaluates digital content. The student is expected to use search strategies to access information to guide inquiry, use research skills to build a knowledge base regarding a topic, task, or assignment, and evaluate the usefulness of acquired digital content. And on the next bullet, we have critical thinking. Critical thinking, problem solving, and decision making. The student applies critical thinking skills to solve problems, guide research, and evaluate projects using digital tools and resources. The student is expected to identify what is known and unknown and what needs to be known regarding a problem and explain the steps to solve the problem. Evaluate the appropriateness of a digital tool to achieve the desired product. Evaluate products prior to final submission, and collect, analyze, and implement data using tools such as word processing, spreadsheets, graphic organizer, multimedia, and programming languages. Another technological standard we have is the digital citizenship. The student practices safe, responsible, legal, and ethical behavior while using digital tools and resources. The student is expected to adhere to acceptable use policies, reflecting positive social behavior in the digital environment, respect the intellectual property of others, abide by copyright law and the fair use guidelines for educational multimedia, protect and honor the individual privacy of oneself and others, follow the rules of digital etiquette, practice safe, legal, and responsible use of information and technology, and comply with fair use guidelines and digital safety rules. Another area that it is required to follow is the technology, operations, and concepts. The student demonstrates knowledge and appropriate use of technology systems, concepts, and operations. The student is expected to demonstrate an understanding of technology concepts, including terminology for the use of operating systems, network systems, virtual systems, and learning systems appropriate for the grade level. Also, to manipulate files using appropriate naming conventions, file management, including folder structures and tagging and file conversion. The student is also required to use proper touch keyboarding techniques and ergonomic strategies such as correct hand and body positions and smooth and rhythmic key strokes.
In College Station ISD, one of the jobs I took on a few years ago was being a campus technology facilitator. And out of all the duties I've ever had, it was probably the the worst duty I ever took on, even though I was a great technology teacher. It seemed that more people were interested in what was happening at the moment, and they wanted to race to find what the latest and greatest app was that would help teachers in their classroom. But it seemed to be more of a headache for me than helping teachers. It seemed to create more work because they just wanted to brag about this application or that application and not really worry about the curriculum and how it was being taught. So I had to drop that. But in College Station ISD, we do have a BYOD policy, and there is a push for technology across the board. However, we do not offer devices for all students to be connected. As I look at my research and record of study in BYOD, I see that teachers, we need to embrace technology and think of it more as a tool to enhance our education and enhance our lessons, just to make more relevancy for our curriculum to connect with kids.
In Frisco, they're really pushing us to use technology in the classroom. We have a BYOD policy, and it's really left up to the individual classroom teacher how we want to operate. We can use them for research. We can encourage flipped classroom. The district itself is a little behind, in my opinion, of other districts like Coppell and Louisville that are very tech forward, and Frisco is lagging in that respect. So hopefully we'll be seeing some investment that direction soon.
In the Houston Independent School District, there is the latest initiative in terms of technology is called Power Up One-on-One, which the superintendent led. And this initiative has put laptops for every high school student. And HISD believes that preparing students to succeed in the 21st century and competing with students around the world requires digitally literate students with strong critical thinking and problem-solving skills who are connected with the world around. Power Up actually has put laptops for anytime, anywhere learning in the hands of more than 40,000 high school students. So the students are allowed to take the laptops home and on the weekends as well. And by 2016, it is expected that all 65,000 students, high school students, will have a laptop. And also it's been created and already launched a district-wide hub platform for collaboration and to personalize teaching and learning and accelerated digital conversion and ultimately to eliminate the textbooks.
Thank you for your time and interest in educational technology.